Senator Capito.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and thank you, Madam Chair and the Ranking Member for this hearing today. Mr. Secretary, I want to thank you for your leadership through the Department on the CDBG Recovery Assistance Program. You and I have talked about this, particularly our West Virginia flood recovery.
Yes.
And I know that you faced a time crunch in your department this year to allocate those funds, and your work is greatly appreciated. One of the things that sort of mystified us in our office and our state authorities, including our governor, has been the best and most effective way to estimate the damage, not just at the present, but then going forward. And I would say if you would have any thoughts on that, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts.
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you so much for the conversation we had earlier. One of the things that we've discovered is that putting people on the ground immediately, even though we're not traditionally the first responders, FEMA and SBA are, we have an opportunity to work directly with them in terms of that assessment, and then to continue that over the course of time, but also to add into the equation people in the local government who are familiar with the situation and tenants themselves. All of those things, I think, give us a much better and a much quicker assessment of what the unmet needs are.
Are you doing that now? Is that
Absolutely.
So did you do that like during Harvey and
Yes.
and that worked
It's still going
more
on.
efficiently?
Yes.
Still going on.
Yes.
The other question, recently was announced a latest round of fund for mitigation in West Virginia, received $106 million. Mitigation, when I think about it, I think you and I talked about this the other day. When I think about mitigation, I think a lot of us think about mitigating the streams and mitigating the waterways, the dams, and all the levees and structures of that nature. With HUD's involvement in mitigation, what does mitigation mean to HUD in terms of these funds?
It means when you repair and rehabilitate, you do it.
Your housing you're speaking about here, buildings?
It can be housing, it can be trenching waterways, it can be a whole series of infrastructural things as well. But you do it in a way that gives you resistance when that situation arises again.
So I guess just in terms of clarification, in terms of the funding that's going to be coming and the ability for the state to use this funding, I just want to clarify with you now, when you mention trenching, you are saying that HUD dollars can go to waterways and other ways if that's the mitigating factor in terms of preventing the next flood.
Absolutely. The mitigation funding is meant to be flexible so that it can, because it's going to be different in each location.
Well, that's actually very good news for where we live. We have a lot of hills and valleys, and our valleys lots of times are creeks and other things that feed our larger water, our rivers, and get so jammed up with debris and other things that that becomes the problem rather than the amount of rainfall. There's no place for it to go.
Absolutely.
And so that's an issue. Another issue for us in the state is opioid and opioid use. And we have the highest rate of deaths resulted from overdose than any other state in the union. And it's a deep, troubling, tragic thing for all of us, and particularly in my state. What is HUD doing to try to coordinate with other entities and also on the ground with housing authorities to help in this issue?
Well, as you know, the president declared it a national health emergency.
Right.
And we have a multi-agency council focusing on it. One of the things that HUD is doing is providing significant funding, over $505 billion, in the Continuum of Care program devoted toward people who have substance abuse problems. We also recognize that prevention is a key part of it, and through things like the Envision Centers, providing or disseminating information that will help people to recognize the consequences of what's going on before they get involved, I think will make a huge impact.
Thank you. Thank you very much.